Well, I want to welcome you all to this climate workshop. I'm Peggy McQuaid. I'm the Vice Mayor of Albany. And I'm especially appreciative that you all came out tonight on an evening that's really more suitable for ducks than for people, but it's really great to have you all here. The City of Albany is excited to share our achievements and our aspirations with you tonight. The City Council has committed to advancing climate action as a key component of our strategic plan. We all believe ensuring long-term sustainability and resilience from climate change and its effects is imperative to maintaining Albany's livability and unique character, and we're determined to continue as a leader in fighting climate change. But we can't do this alone. This is not just up to the City Council, it's not just up to the city staff and committees and all of those people. And we're looking for all of you to help us by working to achieve Albany's ultimate goal of getting to zero carbon by 2050. We're all happy that you're here this evening and that you're ready to participate, and we all look forward to continued engagement throughout this program. And I'd like to now introduce Claire Griffin, who's our Resiliency Manager.
Hi, good evening. It's really great to see this turnout. Looks like there's a few people who don't have seats. There's actually 3 chairs up here and a few interspersed in here as well. Yeah. So plenty of seats for everyone, I think. So I want to start by just introducing a few people in the room. We've got some people, some friendly faces that might be helpful for you during the workshop tonight. As Peggy mentioned, I'm Claire Griffin. I'm the Sustainability and Resilience Manager for the city. We have our Community Development Director, Jeff Bond, over there. And Lizzie Carrad, our Climate Corps, or Civic Spark Climate Fellow, excuse me, over here. And Julia Chang Frank is in the front here. She is one of our consultants from Cascadia Consulting, they're helping with this with our climate plan. And then we also have Climate Action Committee members. This is a regular meeting of the Climate Action Committee. Usually they would be sitting up here. They're formerly known as the Sustainability Committee. It's their first meeting being known as the Climate Action Committee. And they are here to help you out during the workshop and help facilitate conversation. Can you guys raise your hands, those of you who are part of the committee? Great. All in the back, yes. I wanted you to sit up here. So tonight we are going to talk a little bit about, we're going to have a brief presentation, talk about why we're planning for climate change, what we've done so far, our vision for a new climate action plan, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what is the workshop going to look like tonight. Then we will have kind of an open house format workshop where we can solicit your ideas, and then we'll reconvene and talk to you a little bit about how we can use your help to get to carbon zero by 2050 as our lofty goal. So we're not really going to talk about the climate science today. I'm assuming the people in the room kind of are here because you think it's an issue and you know a little bit about it. If that's not the case, if you want to talk to me about it separately during the workshop, I'm happy to get into the climate science portion. But we're gonna just kind of breeze through that and talk a little bit about why we're planning for climate change. You may be all too familiar with photos of climate change in other locales, but we're actually feeling the effects of climate change here in Albany too. As Vice Mayor McQuaid mentioned, we're planning for reducing carbon emissions and also planning to adapt to a changing climate. And what is Albany going to look like in the future because of climate change? Albany in 2050 is going to be hotter. It's going to be drier. Because of that, it's going to have more of a risk of wildfire both in our city and in surrounding areas where we may feel effects of wildfire smoke, which we've all felt in the past couple of years, and health impacts from that. And also, we are concerned about sea level rise. Most of our infrastructure won't be directly affected by 2050. We're looking at about 11 inches of sea level rise by 2050, in which case there will be more frequent flooding of our waterfront areas. So that's the Albany Bulb, Golden Gate Fields, the railroad tracks, and the entrance to the freeway are the things that we're concerned about here in Albany. By 2100, we could be looking at 36 inches of sea level rise, which could inundate those areas and also have major impacts on the region in terms of access to the freeway, our airports, our wastewater treatment plant will be underwater. So even if there isn't infrastructure directly in Albany, we will be affected as a community by sea level rise. So that's why we're planning for climate change. What have we done about it? In 2010, the Albany City Council passed the first climate action plan. The goal was 25% reductions in emissions by 2020, which is coming right up. And we feel like that plan has been thoroughly implemented to the best of our ability. And we can talk a little bit about that, but we have had some really exciting successes from that plan. We installed LED streetlights around the city. We launched East Bay Community Energy. Raise your hand if you've heard of East Bay Community Energy or EBCE. Okay, good. So now the default electricity product in Albany is carbon-free. So that's very exciting news for us. And that will change this pie graph a whole bunch, actually, and we'll have a lot less energy usage, we believe, when we start, when we're able to get that data next year after we've had a year of enrollment. So the default product is carbon-free, but I actually do encourage those of you who haven't to go on to ebce.org and opt up to the 100% renewable product. Very exciting to have that option now in Albany. Some other successes we've had with our climate action plan, we implemented our active transportation plan. So hopefully as you walk and bike the city, you've started to notice that over the past 10 years, there have been major improvements to our bike and ped infrastructure. And we've also had some successes on the waste reduction side. We have a plastic bag ban that was just expanded to all restaurants and retail. We have a mandatory recycling and composting ordinance that we've enforced for multifamily buildings and for businesses. So we feel like we've really had some major successes, and we have one last project in our climate action plan that we're excited to announce tonight. We are launching a website called Carbon-Free Albany, and it's kind of a one-stop shop interactive website where people can go online and learn how they can reduce their own carbon footprints, connect with their neighbors, find out what kinds of things people can do, lots of resources on how to reduce their own footprint. And we are going to do a demo later tonight, so please stay. And Lizzie is going to show you the website, and hopefully you can sign up. So how have we done? The last data set we have is from 2015. We actually just got data from 2017, and it looks like we're doing better, but we can't, but we didn't get a chance to put this on the slide, but we think in 2015, we decreased emissions by 19%, and we think with the carbon-free electricity that we now have, we are definitely going to reach our 2020 goal. So we're excited about that, and we're moving on to some big, lofty goals. There have been successes and challenges in implementing our climate action plan that we want to learn from. This graph is actually a survey of all Alameda County cities, questioning them about their own climate action plan implementation, successes and challenges. Most cities have had difficulty implementing caps because of limited staffing and internal funding. We have great political will and political support in the Bay Area for climate action planning, but as many of you are aware, not so much on the national level, so that can be difficult. We've been able to implement our plan because we've been able to leverage regional partnerships and grant funding, and also thanks to all of you, the community, that's helped implement the plan. We'd like to take these lessons learned into a new plan, looking at new goals. So 25% by 2020 is sort of where we are now, and we're looking at 60% by 2035 and carbon neutrality by 2050. We have to figure out how to get there, and you're going to help us. So in looking at a new plan, we're looking at focusing on fewer, more flexible measures than our previous plan, something that's really implementable by our small staff in our city, focusing on the kind of biggest bang for our buck measures that make sense for the city of Albany to implement. we're looking at systemic change because we're looking at carbon neutrality, right? Our previous plan was just climate mitigation, so it was looking at reducing carbon emissions, and now we're looking at both climate mitigation and adaptation. How do we adapt to this changing climate? And then we're looking at different ways to measure our success in the future. So Julia Chang-Frank of Cascadia is here to speak to you a little bit about the process. We've hired Cascadia Consulting to help us create this plan. So she's going to share a little bit about their plan.
Hi, everyone. As Claire mentioned, I'm with Cascadia Consulting Group. I'm also a resident of the city of Albany, so this is particularly important to me too. As Claire mentioned, the first climate action plan, a lot of those measures have already been implemented, and the city should be really proud of that. This second plan with this very ambitious goal of 2050, as Claire mentioned, will be a slightly different approach. A lot has happened in the last 10 years. A lot of best practices have been realized. A lot of new technology is out there, and we can use all of that knowledge to really feed into the strategy development of this plan, and that's what we intend to do. So we're really going to be focusing on the most significant emission sectors, which in Albany happen to be energy use for residential and business, the transportation sector, and waste. And in terms of our process, the public input process, I just want to talk about that. So we've done the initial research and a community survey, which some of you may have participated in, that was released in the fall. This community workshop is where we're at today, this third part of the arrow. And the next phase will be to hold stakeholder meetings, the staff, with certain groups like landlords, the business community, and also I think the Albany Strollers and Rollers. And from some of those learnings, a draft plan will be developed. That draft plan will then go to various committees and commissions, such as the Transportation Safety Commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Climate Action Commission, obviously. And once that process or that input has been received, then the staff will go back to an internal review, and a final plan will be released. All along with when those committee and commission meetings happen, those will be other points for you to provide public input into the process as their agenda items on those various meeting dates. But also, the staff has created a climate action page, which will be on the city website. It's under the Sustainability Committee tab, and so that's the point where you can also read the draft plan and also email Lizzie. Her email should be on that page, and you can email at any point with your input. We expect this timeline to be about 6 months, so we expect the final plan to be done around the summertime, I'd say, right? And I think that's about it.
Great, thanks so much, Julie. So we actually, as Julia mentioned, we did a survey in the fall. Hopefully we heard from some of you. We had 344 responses, which was great for Albany. And we heard you, and we want to incorporate those results, and then we also want to hear from you tonight. So some major things that came out of the survey that were interesting, there's a lot of support for both looking at mitigation and adaptation. There's a focus on actions related to transportation and energy use, which is in line with the majority of the emissions in Albany. So that makes a lot of sense. There was a desire to promote voluntary actions over mandates and enforcement. And there was an emphasis on public health and the environment. So we asked a question about prioritizing community co-benefits. A lot of the strategies that we're going to put in our climate action plan have benefits beyond just reducing carbon emissions. And so we asked what's important to you, and overall public health was the biggest item on that list for many people. And then there was also, in terms of adaptation, the biggest concerns were water scarcity and fire health risks, and that survey was before the campfire. So that was interesting, and that may have changed after to focus more on fire health risks. But so we heard from you, and now we're going to hear from you again. So we have a workshop tonight and we're running a little ahead of schedule, which is good always. we're first going to focus on strategy generation. So we've got a variety of stations around the room. We may need to move a few of the chairs as you guys get up and move around so you have enough space. And the idea is to have a discussion at each station and generate ideas for how we mitigate these things. So each station has a series of questions that you can answer, and you can write your ideas or talk as a group about these ideas. The 4 stations, there should be enough time for you to go to each station, but if you're just really interested in one, you can hang out there all night, that's fine too. But the idea is for you to be able to rotate around. So our stations are consumption of goods and services that we're calling, instead of calling it waste, we're calling it consumption, because we're talking not just about what you discard, but also about what you buy, and we think that's a better way of thinking about it when we're talking about getting to carbon neutrality. We really have to change our habits. So there's a consumption station. Over there in the corner is gasoline-powered vehicles, big portion of our greenhouse gas emissions. We have energy use in buildings, and we have 2 sections for that. We have natural gas for space and water heating, and we have electricity use. As I mentioned, the default electricity product is carbon-free, but there are still ways that we can talk about reducing electricity use. And then in the lobby, we have an adaptation station, and there's actually 4 different climate impacts that are highlighted there, and we'd love your help coming up with ideas for how do we address these potential climate impacts in our community. And at each station, there'll be a climate action committee member and or a staff member to help facilitate the conversation and answer questions. I will plan to be floating, so please come up to me and ask anything you'd like. And then after we do that, after about 30 minutes or so, or however long it seems to take people to go through those stations, we will flicker the lights and come back, and we have a second section. After you've generated ideas, we want you to comment on those ideas and expand on them, talk about feasibility, kind of rate which ideas you think might fit the best in Albany. So we'll come back and give you instructions for that portion, and you'll do that again. And then at the end, there will be a wrap-up, including that demo of the Carbon-Free Albany website that we mentioned. Great, thank you.